They had a seemingly perfect marriage, filled with love and happiness.
Anne Jones was a faithful wife to her husband Robert. They had a seemingly perfect marriage, filled with love and happiness. However, one momentous evening, everything changed. Robert arrived home from work, his face clouded with an unusual gravity. Anne sensed something was wrong immediately. She greeted him with a warm smile, asking about his day. Instead of responding, Robert announced that he was leaving her. He has a new relationship with a younger girl, and he's planning to marry her. Stunned and heartbroken, Anne couldn't comprehend the sudden revelation. Desperate to salvage their relationship, she begged him to reconsider, but Robert remained resolute. In a fit of anger and despair, Anne grabbed a frozen leg of lamb from the refrigerator and struck Robert on the back of his head. Anne felt despair after she killed her husband, Robert. She left him lifeless on the floor. Anne realizes her life would be ruined if caught, and she comes up with an escape plan to save herself from the law. She meticulously cleans up the scene and removes any traces of the crime. Anne, a widow, calls the police after finding her husband dead. She pretends to be shocked and distraught, sobbing into the phone. "Please come quickly. Something terrible has happened. Robert, he's dead." The officers arrive, but they find nothing substantial. They search the house, but they fail to notice the lamb leg in the oven. Anne offers the officers a meal, a leg of lamb, as a gesture of gratitude. "You must be hungry after all this work. Please, have some dinner. It's the least I can do." The officers devour the lamb, erasing any trace of her involvement. Anne sat alone in the quiet house, realizing she may have lost her husband, but gained her freedom. As the investigation stalled, Anne's confidence grew, and she became bolder in her actions. She discovered she was pregnant with Robert's child, bringing both joy and trepidation. She decided to keep the baby, hoping for a new start. She sold the house and moved to another city, changing her name and appearance. She found a job as a librarian and made some friends. She tried to forget her past and focus on her future. However, a knock on her door shattered her illusion of safety. A stern detective confronted her, holding a photo of Robert. "Mrs. Jones, or should I say, Mrs. Smith, I've been looking for you for a long time. You see, I was one of the officers who investigated your husband's murder. However, I never bought your story. I knew you were hiding something, and I finally found out what it was." He pointed at her belly. "This baby is Robert's, isn't it? You killed him because he wanted to leave you for another woman. Then you invited us for dinner. How sick can you be?" Anne tried to remain calm, but her facade began to crack. She felt a surge of fear and anger, mixed with maternal instinct. She denied everything, but the detective was persistent. He threatened to arrest her and take away her child. He said he had enough evidence to prove her guilt. As the detective's gaze diverted, Anne seized the opportunity and locked the door. Racing through the house, knowing she only had moments to escape before the detective could regain his composure. She grabbed her purse and keys and ran to the garage. She got into her car and drove away as fast as she could, leaving behind her life, memories, and secrets. Anne then sought refuge in a small, remote town, seeking solitude and preparing for her child's arrival. She met Sarah, a warm-hearted woman who owned a bed and breakfast. Sarah offered support and guidance to Anne, who told her she was escaping from an abusive husband. They formed a bond, and Anne brought her daughter into the world, whispering promises of love and protection. The love and warmth of their small community stayed with Anne's daughter as she grew up over the years. She was smart and beautiful, with Robert's eyes and Anne's smile. Anne loved her more than anything in the world, and she did everything she could to make her happy. However, fate had a way of catching up, and rumors of her past deeds resurfaced. Suddenly, an old newspaper article about Robert's murder was found in a nearby library. The article mentioned Anne as a suspect who had disappeared without a trace. The librarian recognized Anne from the photo and alerted the authorities. She made the difficult decision to leave once again. The law or other harmful people could discover Anne and her daughter at any moment, so Anne had to take swift action to secure their safety. Anne packed their belongings and left the cottage behind, bidding farewell to Sarah, who had become like a mother to her. With her daughter, she ventured into the unknown again, determined to shield her from the consequences of her own actions. Anne's heart brimmed with both fear and hope as she faced the new challenges ahead. She was determined to ensure their freedom and happiness. Anne is roaming on a nomadic journey to protect herself and her daughter from authorities and private investigators who are still searching for them. She faces various challenges, including evading capture, financial struggles, emotional turmoil, trust issues, and limited stability and a sense of belonging. She must employ strategies like changing identities, altering appearances, and utilizing hidden routes. Anne must also navigate trust issues. Anne is trying to balance her emotions with her daughter's needs. They also face challenges in providing education and social development as they face potential dangers in their nomadic lifestyle. Anne must find support and form alliances without compromising her safety. Her unwavering love for her daughter and desire for a better future will drive her to overcome these obstacles. By focusing on her resilience, adaptability, and determination, Anne hopes to find a place where they can finally be safe and happy. The moral of the story. The moral of the story is that crime does not pay and that one's actions have consequences. Anne Jones may have escaped the law for a while, but she could not escape her own guilt and fear. She had to live a life of constant hiding and lying, never knowing when she would be caught. She also had to face the possibility of losing her daughter, who was the only thing that gave her happiness and hope. Anne Jones's story shows that violence is not a solution and that it only leads to more problems and suffering.